the sweet poison of satisfaction, why pleasure alone can destroy a civilization. What if I told you that the very thing you crave the most, the comfort, the pleasure, the convenience, could be the exact thing leading you to a slow, quiet, and invisible extinction? Imagine a life where every desire is instantly fulfilled. No waiting, no striving, no struggle. At first glance, it sounds like paradise. But Aldous Huxley didn't think so. In fact, he warned that this very scenario might be the most dangerous dystopia of all. Unlike Orwell's brutal tyranny in 1984, Huxley envisioned a future where people were not crushed by pain, but sedated by pleasure. And the worst part? They would love their own enslavement. So here's the real question. If pleasure can imprison us, how do we even know we're trapped?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
We often assume that freedom means the ability to do what we want. But what if that very freedom, when unchecked, leads us to become addicted to dopamine, convenience, and passivity? In Brave New World, Huxley imagined a society where humans are biologically engineered to be happy. They take a drug called Soma whenever they feel the slightest discomfort. No one questions authority. No one rebels. Why? Because they're too content to care. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Are we already living in that world? We have smartphones to numb boredom, food delivery to erase hunger, and entertainment to drown our thoughts. When was the last time you were truly bored and didn't reach for a screen? The logic is terrifyingly simple. If you can satisfy every superficial need instantly, you'll never go deep enough to confront your real questions. Who am I? What am I here for? What's worth suffering for? Endless pleasure doesn't just dull pain, it silences meaning. And yet, our modern world is built around the idea that the more comfort we have, the better off we are. But is that actually true? Let's think about this. When have you grown the most in your life? Was it during a vacation or during heartbreak? Was it while binge watching shows or while struggling to create something meaningful? We avoid suffering, but maybe suffering is the only thing that makes us real. This is where Huxley's genius pierces through. He didn't just write fiction, he diagnosed a future psychology. He saw that a society obsessed with pleasure would become shallow, fragile, and easily controlled. Why fight for your rights when you're comfortable? Why question the system when the system gives you everything you think you need? Gradually, you lose the will to resist. Not because you're afraid, but because you're too entertained to care. And that's exactly what makes this trap so insidious. No one forces you into it. You choose it. You willingly sedate yourself with pleasure until you can't even remember what freedom tasted like. So I want to ask you something that could change your life. What form of pleasure are you using as a substitute for purpose? Is it social media? Food? Sex? Validation? Entertainment? Here's a chilling idea. Maybe the thing you enjoy the most is the very thing keeping you from growing. And if that's true, then the more addicted you are to comfort, the less capable you are of facing reality. Huxley wasn't just warning us, he was holding up a mirror. And what we see in that mirror might scare us. Because deep down, we know the more we chase easy pleasure, the more we lose our hunger for depth. And here's the twist. Pleasure isn't evil. It's beautiful. It's necessary. But it becomes dangerous when it replaces struggle, when it silences thought, when it becomes the only thing we pursue. Just like sugar in a diet, a little bit of pleasure sweetens our life. but too much makes us sick, slow, and dependent. The irony is that we've become masters of pleasure but amateurs of meaning. We know how to feel good, but we've forgotten how to feel true. And in that forgetting, we risk becoming exactly what Huxley feared: a civilization that traded its soul for a smile. But what if we could break free? What if we could learn to use pleasure the way a sword is used, not as a shield to hide behind, but as a tool to serve higher values? What if we could suffer on purpose, not because we're masochists, but because we understand that depth only comes through difficulty? I'm not saying reject all joy. I'm saying question its role in your life. Does it serve you, or do you serve it? Because if you're constantly escaping discomfort, you might also be escaping your destiny. The truth is, the most meaningful lives aren't the easiest, they're the ones that embrace the hard path with eyes wide open. And so here's the final question I want to leave you with in this part. Would you rather be comfortably asleep in a beautiful dream, or painfully awake in an imperfect reality? That question may define the trajectory of your entire life. Because if you choose the dream, you might never wake up to your potential. But if you choose reality, even with its pain, you may just find your soul. From Soma to screens, how technology hijacks our souls while we smile. You and I are living in a world where the drug isn't called Soma anymore, it's called content. It's called scrolling. It's called TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Netflix. We don't swallow it in pill form, we swipe it, tap it, stream it. And just like in Huxley's vision, it keeps us sedated. Not unconscious, but comfortably awake in a shallow dream. The pleasure is so constant, so frictionless, that we don't even notice we're being devoured by it. The question isn't whether we're addicted. The real question is, what is our addiction costing us? Look around. What do you see? People with eyes locked on glass rectangles, heads down, ears filled, minds elsewhere. We've traded the wild complexity of the real world for the predictable, curated comfort of the digital one. And it's not just about wasting time, it's about outsourcing our attention, our creativity, our will. Every second you spend in the algorithm's grip, you're not just consuming, you're being shaped. Your preferences, your thoughts, your emotions are being molded by invisible hands. And the scariest part? You like it. I like it. We all do. That's why it works. Huxley's Soma was a chemical escape from pain. But our digital pleasures are mental escapes from meaning. Every time we feel anxious, lonely, uncertain, we reach for our phones. We scroll not because we're curious, but because we're empty. And the platforms know this. They feed us a never-ending buffet of microstimulation. Each notification is a hit of dopamine. Each like is a whisper saying you matter. But do we? Or are we just data points in a global machine designed to keep us docile and distracted? Here's the irony: we think we're more free than ever. We can choose what to watch, who to follow, what to post. But Huxley would remind us freedom of choice is not the same as freedom of thought. If all your choices come pre-packaged by an algorithm designed to optimize engagement, how free are you really? If every moment of your free time is filled with noise, when do you ever hear your own soul speak? And if you're constantly stimulated, how can you ever develop the hunger for something deeper? Let me ask you this: when was the last time you sat in a room, in silence, with no device, no music, no distraction, and just thought? Just felt? Just existed? Most people can't handle it. Silence feels like withdrawal. boredom feels like suffering. But the truth is, boredom isn't the enemy, it's the doorway. It's the gateway to insight, to creativity, to depth. Huxley knew this. That's why his society in Brave New World eliminated boredom altogether. Because the moment people get bored, they start asking real questions. And real questions are dangerous, especially to systems that profit from your passivity. This is not a call to abandon technology. It's a call to master it, to use it consciously, not compulsively, to treat it like fire, immensely powerful, but only when controlled. Just as ancient humans learned to use fire for survival without letting it consume them, we must learn to use digital pleasure without letting it numb us. Every swipe is a choice. Every tap is a vote. And over time, those votes shape your identity. If you give your best hours to passive consumption, you'll become a passive person. If you give your best hours to creation, contemplation, and connection, you'll become someone worth becoming. Let's get brutally honest here. Our addiction to screens is not just a personal problem, it's a cultural crisis. The more we escape into virtual pleasures, the less present we become with each other. Relationships suffer. Attention spans shrink. Depth disappears. And in its place, we get convenience, surface-level connection, and endless entertainment. But what's the cost of that trade? Are we becoming a civilization that can no longer think deeply, feel intensely, or act courageously? Huxley feared that we'd laugh ourselves into oblivion, that we'd be so amused we'd forget to resist. Are we already there? We must reclaim our attention, not just for productivity, but for our humanity. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention is scattered across 1,000 distractions, your soul will be too. But if you can learn to focus, to sit with discomfort, to resist the urge to escape, you begin to reclaim your freedom. Not political freedom, not economic freedom, but the deepest freedom, the freedom to be fully you, unmanipulated by invisible forces, unshackled from compulsive pleasure. So here's the challenge I leave you with in this part. What would happen if you went 24 hours without any digital stimulation? No phone, no streaming, no social media. Just you, your mind, your body, and the world around you. Would you panic? Would you discover something? Would you feel lost or finally found? That one experiment might show you more about yourself than 1,000 hours of watching other people live. The trap of endless pleasure isn't obvious. It's silent. It's soft. It doesn't punish you, it comforts you. And that's why it's so hard to escape. But if you can recognize it, if you can name it, you can begin to build something deeper. Because at the end of the day, the soul doesn't crave pleasure. It craves meaning. And meaning is always found not in escape, but in engagement. Not in sedation, but in struggle. Not in watching, but in living. The price of blissful ignorance, why choosing pain might be the only way to be truly free. Let's ask the most uncomfortable question of all. What if pain, not pleasure, is the real path to freedom? This isn't just a poetic idea. It's a radical philosophical truth that lies at the heart of human growth. Aldous Huxley believed that if we eliminate all suffering, we also eliminate the very conditions that make depth, wisdom, and individuality possible. In a world of endless pleasure, no one learns to endure. No one learns to sacrifice. No one learns to become. Instead, we are frozen in a state of shallow contentment, smiling on the outside, but starving within. And here's the twist: we did it to ourselves. We engineered comfort so well that we forgot the value of discomfort. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is information. Pain is the signal that something matters. When you lose someone you love, the grief you feel is proof that love was real. When you fail at something important, the sting of that failure means you tried. But in a pleasure-obsessed society, we're taught to avoid these moments. We medicate them, distract ourselves from them, or bury them under entertainment and consumption. But in doing so, we also bury the very experiences that make us human. Huxley didn't just warn us about addiction to pleasure, he warned us about the death of truth. In Brave New World, the characters don't care about truth. They care about comfort. They don't want to know the ugly realities of the world. They want to feel good. And when truth and comfort clash, they choose comfort every time. Now ask yourself, how often do you do the same? When a hard truth confronts your beliefs, do you explore it or scroll past it? When something challenges your worldview, do you welcome it or retreat into the familiar? The desire for constant comfort has made us allergic to truth. This is why choosing pain voluntarily, consciously, is an act of rebellion. It's a declaration that you want more than stimulation. You want transformation. Real growth requires sacrifice. It requires discipline. It requires saying no to what feels good now in order to say yes to what matters most later. That's not just philosophy, that's life. You don't build strength in a warm bath. You build it under pressure. You don't build character by being entertained. You build it by facing boredom, fear, and failure with open eyes. So ask yourself, what pain are you avoiding that you secretly know you need to face? We live in a time when the world offers us 1,000 ways to escape ourselves. But the path to meaning always leads back into ourselves, into our wounds, our shadows, our fears. Huxley's dystopia wasn't a nightmare of oppression, it was a dream of distraction. And that dream is seductive because it's painless. But in choosing pain, real pain, earned pain, we awaken. We remember that we are not machines built only for pleasure. We are souls meant to wrestle with reality, to shape it, to suffer for what is good, and to find joy not in constant stimulation, but in profound purpose. You and I must make a terrifying choice. Do we want to be happy, or do we want to be whole? Because wholeness is messy. It includes suffering. It includes loss. It includes uncertainty. But it also includes depth, beauty, and love that isn't shallow or synthetic. It's the kind of love that Huxley's world had to eliminate because real love demands pain. It demands vulnerability. It demands risk. And in a society that worships safety and pleasure, love becomes too dangerous. So the question becomes, are we willing to risk discomfort for something real? The most powerful moment in Brave New World is when a character, the savage, refuses to take Soma. He says, I don't want comfort. I want God. I want poetry. I want real danger. I want freedom. I want goodness. I want sin. And the world controller replies, you're claiming the right to be unhappy. The savage says, I am claiming it. That moment is the soul of the novel. Huxley is telling us, if you want to be truly human, you must claim the right to suffer. not because suffering is good, but because it is real. And in a world drowning in illusion, reality, no matter how painful, is sacred. So what does this mean for us right now? It means we must actively choose the harder path. Wake up early when you want to sleep in. Focus deeply when distraction is easier. Say the hard truth when silence would feel safer. Love someone even when it's terrifying. Create something meaningful even when you're afraid it won't be perfect. This is how you reclaim your freedom, not from governments or corporations, but from the addiction to ease that has infiltrated your own mind. I'll leave you with the deepest question of all: what kind of life do you want to die having lived? One filled with comfort and distraction, where every pain was numbed and every truth avoided? Or one filled with fire, burned by purpose, scarred by love, and shaped by the struggle to become someone real? The pleasure trap is seductive, but the human spirit was not made to be sedated. It was made to fight, to feel, to fail, and to rise. Huxley warned us not because he wanted us to fear the future, but because he wanted us to wake up before it was too late. You still have time, we all do, but only if we're willing to step out of the dream and into the raw, beautiful, painful truth of being alive.